there have been a couple of reports this week that have been pretty concerning when it comes to the Labour Party, their funding, and their patrons. There was a piece published in the Guardian earlier today that said that the left of the Labour Party have warned that their presence is going to be pretty diminished at the next Labour conference. There is typically a fringe festival that happens alongside the conference that is normally where, I think in 2016, it was where people were celebrating Corbyn. That is not going to be going ahead this year. But on the other side of that, Novara Media have revealed that Israeli arms suppliers Northrop Grumman are actually going to be sponsoring a talk at the Labour Party conference this year. The session is called A New Era of Defence. How can Labour address current and future challenges? It's going to be hosted in partnership with the New Statesman magazine. But the Northrop Grumman are one of the organisations that is partly responsible for the development of F-35s, which we were talking about earlier. It's not a great look for the Labour Party, but alongside this, the writers over at Open Democracy have also shared this week that key members of the Labour cabinet have received more than £170,000 worth of gifts and donations since the start of 2023, with Starmer actually being at the top of the gift list, having taken gifts like concerts, football tickets. I think the Eras tour was one of them, all amounting to more than £50,000 in that period. So we knew that Labour had a lot of commercial support, a lot of commercial funders. As Davey was saying earlier, they have been the party of business for the last couple of years. I think it'd be good for us to jump in a little bit more into the types of organisations that have been funding Labour through these gifts over the course of the last year or so. Firstly, Davey, these two stories running concurrently. Are you surprised? Are you baffled?
No, one of the reasons that I left Labour was because they just kept, everyone keeps talking about how the left doesn't compromise, but I was pushed to breaking long before, the atrocities in Palestine started. For me, it was the neoliberal stance on the economy, and then it was how hateful they were towards trans people, and that's all only gotten worse. So it's not a surprise. If you don't mind me saying, what the problem is for me isn't that this shocking things happened. It's been obvious for a while. The problem for me is the head in the sand approach from a bunch of people that will sit on online tests and test out that they're left wing, but then when it comes out to actually defending those policies and practically trying to chase them, they'll compromise and think that that's the best thing to do, because government's not good unless it hurts the working class. And it's those people that have contributed to Labour shifting this way with absolutely no hook to hang from.
Yeah, it feels as though, I can't remember what we were listening to the other day, but the idea that we were treating ahead of time, it was like, but Labour's going to come out and actually be really socialist. Like, he's going to take his little hat off and he's actually going to be a socialist. And we're all going to be fooled. And then we're all going to clap and have a socialist utopia. We don't really have the right to do that because they're doing what they said they were going to do. I think one of the examples of the events that was being hosted that Open Democracy covered in their Dark Money piece was a summer reception from the Fabian Society that was sponsored by FTI Consulting, Keep Moat Homes, property developers, life cycle real estate companies, asset managers, capital groups. I don't get the impression that those events are run by secret socialists.
No, they're not. And I think another streamer who's awesome is No Justice, and she covered something really important the other day when it came to Labour's watering down on the 28 billion pledge. What people need to get is Labour are not saying we're not going to invest any money in green. What happened was Rachel Reeves went to, what's it called? The World Economic Forum. And there she was lobbied by the do-bidders of billionaires who said, well, don't take public money for this. Why would you take public money? Here's these billionaires that want to give you all this money to invest in green. And to some people that sounds sensible, but you have to understand that that's like, it's like walking up to someone that's got a giant lighter underneath the world and saying, excuse me, can I borrow that bottle of water that you've got so I can pour it on the world that you're setting on fire? These are the people that are contributing to climate breakdown. And Rachel Reeves is like, let's also give them money to fix the problem they're causing. Just,
Hmm.
and this is the problem with this kind of type of politics that Labour have slid into, that it's this short-termist, look directly ahead but not at the uncomfortable things at the sides kind of dint that's going to mean that we're not actually fixing any of the problems at the root. It's just surface level spackle that's just going to collapse in on us.
I hate being spackled by the Labour Party.
Who doesn't,
If
honestly.
if there's one thing I can't stand, it does. Yeah, I mean, we all kind of had the impression they were positioning themselves as people of business. We know that a lot of Tory donors have moved over to the Labour Party as well. I do think it's pretty insane that they've taken on a sponsor like Northrop Grumman, especially for a session about defence. Additional context, by the way, I forgot to say this, but for anyone who's not as familiar with them. So Northrop Grumman they do a lot of arms manufacturing, and in October, after October 7th, their share prices jumped up by 11.5%. So they're one of these companies that benefits massively whenever there's some kind of war taking place. I can't. They're just building themselves into this hole of like, I don't understand. Like, you're having David Lammy saying, yeah, we think that Israel might be doing war crimes, but we're not going to stop selling them most of the arms licenses. And then you've got these guys going, well, we're trying to keep neutral, follow international law, but we are going to have our event sponsored by a arms manufacturer. I'm nervous that the veil is slipping so much at this point that there's going to be some kind of like, there's not like as much of a lull for people anymore. People aren't buying into it in the same way as they used to. It's becoming more and more obvious and more barefaced, which I guess kind of, actually, I've thought about it too much in a circle. I guess that kind of leads into why they want to arrest everyone instead, right? The soft power is going out the window.
It was always going to happen because ultimately, I think what confuses me is there were so many people who were watching them build this big, really obvious neolib platform that was about exactly what you said. It was, Tory in nature. Let's ignore the problems of the EU. Let's take from poor so we can get back building. Let's deregulate instead of actually trying to tax rich people, and on and on and on. All of these things that are incredibly important. And all the while, people have been saying, oh, just wait, just wait. They have to do this because of the right wing press. And then they got into power after building a very solid platform that was very clearly kind of like 2010 David Cameronian, you guys are going to have to pull your belts in and we'll all have to suffer together. And then everyone's like, hold on, they're doing what they said they were doing. Why is this happening? And you
But this
kind of
is
sit on the
bad.
internet and go, yeah, like, did you guys think I was doing this for fun? Like I literally turned against the Labour Party because I was like, if this is the platform you're building, I will not associate with it. Like, it's too late now.
But then when there was the child benefit cap, then when they voted against the child benefit cap, they had to have the whip withdrawn because they went against the manifesto.
But
The
that's
good
just
bits of the
it.
manifesto were promises.
The irony of that was they just took an accelerated position that Labour's claimed themselves. They said that they've set up this child welfare forum where they're going to sit down and discuss all the problems. Exactly what the bloody hell do you think that forum's going to say about the two-child benefit cap? It's good. They can do that, but ultimately what the problem that we're seeing is they've set themselves this like thing up to remove the two-child cap down the line. That's not going to lift children out of poverty now. That's where
Yeah.
the issue is. It's you. And what's the phrase? A stitch in time saves nine. You lift people out of poverty now, or you pay for their long-term health problems and prison recidivism down the freaking line.
And then you have to
It's
send them to Estonia.
exactly, like, can't think of anything worse or better. Although, what's the weather like there? Because I might commit a crime,
It does,
like
yeah. I
standing
mean,
in the street and stand in the street and say, "Don't burn the world."
I'm going to report that. I can't
There you
believe
go.
that
That's it.
we've got him. Just making
Imprison
notes.
me.
It's I'm actually thinking about it now. The fact that they've got such low prison sentences, but yeah, it feels like we're getting into a very vicious cycle with this now. It is frustrating. I know we've talked about it before. The feeling of being able to say "I told you so" is just not. It's just not that sweet.
No,
When
there's
it's
no
all gone
joy
to
in
shit.
being like, there's no joy in like turning around someone and being like, I'm going to suffer immeasurably. Like, you don't really get to gloat when that's happening, do you?
Well, I hope you're happy with all this as the world falls apart. I think you described it as like, look at all this shit, but you're in the shit. You're standing next to them in the shit going, well, I hope you're happy with yourselves. It's
look
horrible.
at all this, you losers. Yeah, look at this. You don't like this, do you?
It's all in my trousers. It's awful.
Patreon.com, Turn Left Media. Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you, Turn Left.